Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Jaleesa. Today we are tie-dyeing. These materials I got from my local Dollar Tree: ketchup and mustard bottle, spray bottle, twine, gloves, drop cloth. My dyes I got from Michaels. I have RIT DyeMore, regular RIT powder dye, and color stay dye fixative, and that is going to help our color to stay and not bleed. So let's get into my setup. So I took my drop cloth and I cut it in half and taped it down on my countertop. I originally planned to do this outside, but then I opted to do it inside because it is a gloomy day today. And then I have all of my dyes and I have the ketchup and mustard bottles. I ended up going and buying another set of ketchup and mustard bottles, and then I have the bleach. And then I have my rubber bands. Those are just some chopsticks that I got that I used on my test item to kind of touch it because I didn't want to waste any gloves. Gloves, I have my string that I'm about to cut, and then I actually went and got this wire rack because I won't be using the bucket that I originally purchased. So the dye needs to be diluted with water. So I have a Pyrex cup here of water. And we are going to be putting 1 cup of water to 1 capful of dye is the ratio. But I'm actually going to be using 3 capfuls. So usually you want to put 1 cup of water with 1 tablespoon of dye, which is equivalent to just about 1 capful. So I'm using 3, so I'm really diluting it to make sure that I get that color in there. I really want to make sure that this is a really make sure that it's really vibrant and that it sticks. And you want to make sure that you're cleaning up after yourself. So I'm just wiping off the rim here, rinsing out the cap, wiping off the rim of the bottle before I shake it up so that we can make sure that that dye and the water get mixed together so that we can make sure that we don't have any like chunks or anything in there when we go to put it on the fabric. Now this is the same method that I'm going to use with the powder dye as well, except with the powder dye, I didn't measure it. I just poured it in there. You are welcome to measure it. It is a similar ratio to the water, but like I said, I wasn't too concerned about the powder, so I just kind of poured it in there until I felt comfortable. And we repeated this process again a few times. All right, so now we have a Hanes shirt and we are going to do the classic tie-dye on it. So we're going to twist it from the center and then we're going to wrap those arms around it. Once I wrap the arms around and make sure that I have it nice in my swirly pattern, that is when I rubber band it to make sure that it is nice and secure before we start our actual tie-dyeing. So we want to make sure that you really have the arms and any kind of flyaway pieces in there secure. My rubber bands were a bit loose, so I made sure that they were wrapped on there pretty tightly, and I made 8 triangle quadrants with my rubber bands. So then I put it on top of the rack, and that is when I got to tie-dyeing. So you want to make sure, for me at least, if you want to just kind of a nice swirl, you want to have those quadrants that are adjacent to each other with the same color tie-dye. With the darker colors, you want to be a little bit more careful because they will splash onto other areas. And then with the lighter colors, you just want to make sure that you don't get any of that dark stuff popping on there. And then I love gray, but I wanted to make sure that I had a nice pop in there. So I added orange. So you're going to do that on one side, and then you're going to carefully flip it over, not to splash any, and try to make sure that the quadrants match up on the opposite side. So we made sure that the orange was with the orange, the light gray was with the light gray, and the dark gray was with the dark gray. So now we're going to make sure that after we finish putting on these last pieces of dye, we're going to move her to the side and we're going to let her sit for 30 minutes. So on this guy, we have the same shirt, but we're going to be doing a crunch effect on this guy. So we're going to just make sure that we're pinching that fabric all around, bringing it in, and then we're going to actually use strings this time. I'm going to use strings to secure it instead of using the rubber band. So it becomes a little bit more difficult because the strings, of course, don't have that same security as the rubber band. So really making sure to get them under the fabric and tying them securely, and making sure that you are clipping those loose ends if you want to, or you can leave them if they don't really bother you. On this one, I did leave the loose ends on there, and once we get into my last project, you will see how I clip the ends. So on this guy, it's not really about the quadrants because it's just about the security. The string is just there for the security. Unlike in the last one with the swirl, the rubber bands were there for the quadrant. So as you can see, I'm just kind of splattering the color all over. I used the teal, the navy blue, and the gray in there to mix it up. And then I did leave some white because I did just want it to be a true kind of splatter pattern where it looked very unintentional. So you'll see that there'll be a lot of white still in this item when we get to the end. Like I said, I just wanted it to be a little bit. And be mindful that when you're doing projects like this, you're going to see transfer of other colors when you're doing multiple projects in one day. Okay, so this is my grand item. So the sweatshirt and sweatsuit. So as you can see, I'm turning that arm in there so that it can lay on top. And then I pulled from that one section and did a targeted effect. So it's going to look more like a bullseye, and this is going to match up with the bottoms. I'm going to do the same effect there. So I'm going to take, this is where the string comes in versus using rubber band. So I will be taking 5 pieces of string and tying them into sections, and I tied them into knots so that I can make sure that they were super secure. And then I will trim the ends of the string so that they don't mess anything up. And then I'll have a gradual tie-dye go in there. So this was the piece that I was most excited for, so I left it to the end. As you can see, I kind of have the fabric that I'm not using kind of trying to bunch up in a controlled area to one side because we don't want any kind of splatter, but I will show you guys how I try to clean that up as we go on. So here on the bottoms, we're going to be doing the same design. We're going to be tying it with that string 5 times, and we're going to start from the top corner. This is going to be the same corner that is going to match up with the sweatshirt so that you can see that it was intentionally made that way. And then I'm going to be very strategic in making sure that I have my colors match up. Now you can see I struggled a little bit to get this tied here just because of the elastic on the waistband. The tie wouldn't stay tight, but you just gotta really kind of play with it and get it in there as secure as you can. Now, after each garment has sat for 30 minutes, I put it on its separate piece of plastic that I have some of the that I had laid down originally, the extra plastic, and we're going to put the color fixative on it. Now, this is a super important step. It's the same ratio that I used for the dye, 1 tablespoon to 1 cup. But this is going to be really important because it's going to help you to not have that bleeding, to not have the transferring of colors onto your other garments, and really for you to really have a really solid tie-dye that's going to stick in there. So you're going to saturate the entire garment everywhere that you have dye with the color fixative. And then you're going to wrap it in the plastic and you're going to put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. And just make sure that it's wrapped up nice and tight with the rubber bands and everything still on it. And you're just going to put it straight, transfer it straight to the microwave. Now we're going to repeat this same process with the Bullseye tie-dye, except we're only going to wrap the part that is color that we actually tie-dyed. We're not going to wrap the white part, so we're going to try to keep that in, again, contained so that we're not having any transfer of color with it like sitting on top of each other, but we are going to make sure that we have that not wrapped up tightly inside of the plastic, but still making sure that we're getting that color fixative to stay. So once it comes out of the microwave, we're going to toss it into the sink and we are going to rinse it with cold water. Now, if you have, because it is going to be a little bit steamy. Now, if you have ever dyed a garment before, you can see just from looking at this that I am not having any dye really coming off of the garment, which is unlikely when you do when you dye a garment in general with RIT dye. You're going to have a lot that's kind of rinsing off, which is why this step is important, and we don't have much of that. So at this point is I'm also going to cut the strings off and just be really careful that, because remember I put them on there super tight, so just want to be careful that I'm not cutting the fabric and get rid of those pieces of string, and then just continue to rinse out the dye with the cool water. So this is where the bleach comes in. So I used all of my color fixative, so I just reused that bottle instead of using a spray bottle. And I did 1 part Clorox and 2 parts water, and I just hit those spots on my white garment that I saw a little bit of dye go in places that I didn't want it that look a little weird. So like down on the leg, down on the thigh, and then on the back there was some kind of like right underneath the crotch section that you can see there, that I'm gonna just put a little bit of bleach on so that we can get those out, so that, or they can at least fade a little bit so that it looks a little bit more like a natural tie-dye effect and not like I kind of made a boo-boo. And I'm going to repeat this same effect on the sweatshirt so that we can have a nice clean look. After I put it on both, I'm going to toss them in the washer so that we can wash that bleach out, and we can get a true kind of look at what the garment looks like at the end. Okay, guys, here are my items, and I am so excited and happy with how they came out. The targeted bullseye tie-dye, whatever you'd like to call it, I think it came out amazing. Matches up perfectly. The colors all blend together really great. Then we have our kind of our splatter tie-dye that came out really fun as well. And then our classic tie-dye with our light gray, dark gray, and orange.